For God is my King of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. Psalm 74, verse 12. Asaph pivots. The prayer shifts from lament to declaration, from petition to proclamation. The word "for" carries everything. Asaph has asked why God's hand remains withdrawn, and now he answers his own question by rehearsing who God is and what God has done. God is king, not was, not will be, but is. The phrase of old does not place God's kingship in the past, but roots it in eternity, establishing that God's sovereign rule predates every enemy banner and every ruined stone. Asaph declares this kingship as his own. My king. God works salvation in the midst of the earth, not at the margins nor in secret, but in the midst. His saving acts occur in the center of human history, visible to nations and enemies alike. Asaph grounds his petition in this. The God he asks to pluck his hand from his bosom is the same God whose work of salvation is already established in history. Thou didst divide the sea by thy strength. Thou breakest the heads of the dragons in the waters. Psalm 74, verse 13. Asaph moves immediately to evidence. The Red Sea stands as the defining act of divine power in Israel's covenant memory. God divided it by strength, not by negotiation or gradual process. The act was decisive and complete. The breaking of the dragon's heads refers to the destruction of Egypt's military power in the sea. Ancient Near Eastern imagery describes chaos and opposition through the figure of sea monsters or dragons. God does not part the waters and leave the enemy intact. He breaks the heads of those who pursued his people, destroying the power that held Israel captive. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Psalm 74, verse 14. Leviathan represents the full force of organized opposition against God's purposes. God breaks its heads in pieces, the plural emphasizing destruction rather than partial defeat. The imagery moves further. God gives the broken enemy as food to the people of the wilderness. What threatened Israel becomes Israel's provision. God transforms the instrument of destruction into sustenance for his people. Thou didst cleave the fountain and the flood. Thou driedst up mighty rivers. Psalm 74, verse 15. Asaph references God's provision of water from the rock in the wilderness alongside his power over the Jordan River crossing. God cleaves rock and releases water for the thirsty. God dries up mighty rivers to open passage for his people. The same divine power that destroys enemies also provides for the covenant community. God's strength operates in both directions. The day is thine, the night also is thine. Thou hast prepared the light and the sun. Psalm 74, verse 16. Asaph steps back from Israel's history to declare God's ownership of time itself. Day belongs to God, but night also belongs to the Lord. The light and the sun exist because God prepared them. No hour exists outside his authority. Thou hast set all the borders of the earth. Thou hast made summer and winter. Psalm 74, verse 17. God establishes geography and governs seasons. The borders of the earth are not determined by military conquest or political negotiation, but by God's sovereign decree. Summer and winter move according to his design, not human management. The enemy who plants banners in the sanctuary occupies land whose borders God set. They act within a creation they did not make and cannot control. Asaph places every act of God's power before him as the foundation for his petition.